Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
And on this Monday morning, glad to have with us Chautauqua County Executive, State Senate candidate Republican George Borrello. George Borrello, thank you for coming in.
Good morning. It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, George Borrello, you're running for the State Senator Kathy Young seat. Senator Young left the Senate to take a position at Cornell University. And we were talking a little bit before the Newsmaker started about your relationship with former Senator Young, how you've been working with her on various projects, and that you continue to. Tell us about that.
Well, I've worked with Kathy Young while she was senator, when I was still a county legislator, and certainly as county executive, and even now in her new role as the head of the Center for Food and Agricultural Excellence at Cornell. And she has always been an amazing person, a tireless advocate for our area, and in her new role, she continues that. We're working on something that actually started with her and I about 2 years ago. We took a tour of the Cornell Cooperative Extension Lab in Portland, which is in Chautauqua County. And there, when we were there, we saw their experimental hops yard, hops being a critical component of making brewing beer. And the question was, if we can grow it here and grow it successfully, why is this not spreading throughout agriculture, so that we obviously have dairy and grapes, particularly in Chautauqua County, struggling because of market forces, things that are beyond their control. Everything from tariffs to the market price for milk, which is below what it costs to actually produce it. So, as a business person myself, someone who started his own business, I looked at this as an issue. Why can't we develop this? And the answer was because there isn't a cooperative group like you have, like a co-op, for example, like you would have with grapes, where everyone that's growing the product has a place to bring it, to have it processed and tested and graded and stabilized, stored, all those things that are required in order to create a market. So this turned into really an idea that I started pursuing right away, that how could we create something of a co-op type nature that would focus on products, new crops for our farmers. And that led to what we turned into Project Grow Chautauqua. And with Kathy Young's assistance, that is now becoming a reality, and it's going to benefit. We just got the first. We did a large study. A gentleman by the name of Chris La Carrata, who started his career in manufacturing in Chautauqua County, retired very successfully. He came back to town. His wife is from Fredonia, which is where I'm from originally, and wanted to do something entrepreneurial that would benefit the agriculture industry. So I pitched this idea of creating, a vertically integrated agribusiness, and he loved it. He did some business analysis of it, and then came back and said, this is a very viable business. He said, we need to do a feasibility study. So he was so convinced that this was going to work that the feasibility study is $120,000. He put up $65,000 of his own money, and then we raised the rest of it locally, $20,000 from our county legislature and the rest from local foundations. The study was recently completed, and we presented it to the Planning and Economic Development Committee of the county legislature, and it is going to be a game changer for agriculture, in my opinion. And I'm really excited because the need for farmland, for crops, is going to spread all across western New York and the southern tier. So this is something that could truly benefit, farmers across the region, and it is something unlike anything else that's being done anywhere in the United States.
Talking to Chautauqua County Executive Republican candidate for the State Senate seat, the 57th Senate District, and that's all of Allegheny County, half of Livingston County, all of Chautauqua County, all of Cattaraugus County. I have that right?
That's correct, yes. It's 8 towns in Livingston.
I'd like to, before we get to the issues on where you stand on all the issues, George Borrello, last week we had Democrat State Senate candidate Austin Morgan on. He hit you hard on a couple of issues. I just want to give you the chance to respond to what Austin Morgan said last week.
Well, my understanding was he was claiming that I was somehow it was inappropriate for me to do a press conference in Buffalo, talking about the absolutely horrific conditions of the thruway, which is a huge issue for folks in Chautauqua County. Now, I don't know what my opponent thinks, but you can't get things done from sitting behind a desk, and I am out there everywhere I have to be to advocate on behalf of the people of Chautauqua County as the county executive. And he might be surprised by that, but the people that aren't surprised by that are the people of Chautauqua County, because they see me doing this all the time. I go wherever I have to go to advocate, to fight on the behalf of the people that I represent. It's taken me to Washington, D.C. It's taken me to Albany. It's taken me to Pittsburgh. And, of course, it's taken me to Buffalo. So my response is, as the county executive in Chautauqua County, I have a strong track record of getting things accomplished, and that's because I'm willing to go places to speak on behalf of the people that I represent. And by the way, I'm here with you, not on the phone. I'm here live in your studio.
Now, you do a lot of appearances, I understand, with Congressman Tom Reed.
Yes, Tom and I work closely together. Of course, Chautauqua County is the biggest county in his congressional district. It's certainly a situation where he has been a great advocate for us for things like bringing critical funding for water-related projects. We have 5 lakes, including Lake Erie in Chautauqua County, and the Army Corps of Engineers is a critical component in the maintenance of those harbors and everything else, and he's been great support of that and a lot of other things. So we've stood together many times, and in this case, I'm proud to stand with him to shine a light in the dark corners of what's going on when it comes to the situation, not just on the thruway, but what's happening in state roads throughout the Seneca Nation territory. I mean, the roads are deplorable in Salamanca, and obviously we know the tragic situation that has occurred there because of the withholding of the payments to the city of Salamanca. And by the way, everyone else, including Chautauqua County, that money is owed to us by the state. Our agreement is with the state of New York. The fact that the Senecas and the state cannot come to an agreement really is not the concern of the municipalities that are owed that money.
Talking with Chautauqua County Executive George Borrello. He's running as a Republican for the New York State Senate. On the issues, if we can, this is what we usually do when we have a candidate on for the first time, go through where the candidate stands on the issues. Let's start out with Common Core.
I think Common Core it's when you speak to educators, most of them realize that Common Core is really a big mistake, and I think it's in my opinion, when it comes to Common Core, everything that I've seen and working with friends of mine who have children still in school, you look at that and it just seems tragic. It's about trying to come up with politically correct solutions to things that should be based strictly on education. So I'm not a fan of it, and certainly whatever involvement we have at the state level, I'd like to see this reformed.
Wind and solar, alternative energy.
There's obviously a lot of folks out there who look at this as, how we're going to fix things when it comes to, climate change and so forth. But, my opinion is that with the subsidies that are out there, the heavy subsidies, these things are not built without government subsidies for, the federal tax credits that are involved, and they're not, and they don't produce energy without perpetual subsidies from typically government agencies. They sign these power purchase agreements. And what this has done is it's basically created a cottage industry for Wall Street investment firms. That's the real issue here. This is not about greenhouse gas emissions. This is not about renewable energy. It's about money. The only green here is money. And my issue with it is that there is no innovation occurring at all, because these investment firms are getting involved solely to profit off the taxpayers, because that's the only profit that there is from subsidies. We need to reform this situation. I am opposed to it. I believe these industrial wind turbines are an absolute blot on our communities. They destroy the beautiful natural world that we have here, the reason that we live here. The reason that my wife and I chose to move back to this area is because of the beautiful natural environment we have. And they are turning this into an industrial wasteland for the profit of Wall Street and the political cronies that support them.
Around here, there's a lot more of it in Steuben County than there is in Allegheny County. Mm-hmm. Very little in Allegheny County in comparison to what they've got in Steuben County. Mm-hmm. I don't know where the Allegheny County Industrial Development Agency stands on it. I know that the Steuben County Industrial Development Agency, Steuben County IDA, very supportive of wind energy. How much of it is there in Chautauqua and Cattaraugus counties?
There are currently 3 projects that have been authorized. One has been built in Arkwright. I'm constantly being contacted by folks that are talking about health issues related to being sited so close. You know, look, I don't have an issue with renewable energy. I believe the correct solution is small-scale projects, small-scale wind and solar projects that directly power homes and farms and businesses, you know, microgrids. Those are the kind of things that will reduce the strain on our aging and failing electrical grid. Also, the renewable energy projects that we're building right now are being backed up by the dirtiest coal plants in places like Homer City, Pennsylvania. The state of New York is spending hundreds of millions of your dollars to run transmission lines to the dirtiest coal plants in Ohio and Pennsylvania because this renewable energy project that they're building is so inefficient that it can't support itself. You know, the governor says we're going to go to this, 70% and then 100% renewable. It's completely bogus. It'll never happen. You know, because we're going to be importing power from these dirty coal plants. Right now in Western New York, we used to import nothing, but since the closure of our plants, both at Dunkirk and the Huntley plant at Tonawanda, we're now importing 25% of our power instead of repowering those plants with much cleaner, much lower carbon footprint natural gas, which is what we should be doing. But that doesn't fit the political agenda, and that's what really frustrates me, is to see that this is nothing but politics. And unfortunately, there are those folks who are well-meaning who want to see something happen when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions and to climate change that have become, unfortunately, the ignorant zombies for this political agenda.
Talking with Chautauqua County Executive Republican State Senate candidate George Borrello. Next big issue, I think, for the area, if not, I'm sure it's actually the bigger issue. Second Amendment, the SAFE Act. I know that that was something that your predecessor, Senator Kathy Young, was very much opposed to. And what's the trick to fighting the SAFE Act? Repealing this piece and that piece one at a time, or what are your thoughts there?
No, you repeal the whole thing. That's the bottom line. You know, there's no fixing something that was flawed to begin with. Here's my issue with the SAFE Act. I don't care what your opinion is on guns or gun safety or the Second Amendment. You should be concerned about the horrible, horrific overreach by our state legislature and our governor to pass it. You know, they violated their own rules in passing this. So I don't care in any case. If you believe in representative government that serves the people, you should be outraged no matter what your political affiliation is, no matter what your philosophy is, in the way they went about passing this. They took advantage of a tragic situation, circumvented their own rules, passed this in the middle of the night, and then had to go back and fix things because they rushed it. They did this for all politics, without any process, and certainly without the due process that's supposed to be afforded to important things like this.
Next one is taxes. The old saying, New York taxes. I guess it's Massachusetts actually. Last one out, turn out the lights. Taxachusetts. That was actually Massachusetts. Come to think of it, but the complaint has always been there that the New York City politicians make the tax situation impossible for upstate. Your thoughts, George Borrello?
Yeah, there's no doubt that we have one of the most heavily taxed states in the nation, heavily burdened, overregulated. I know this because I started my own business in my early 20s here in New York. And even now, my wife and I are business owners. We have to deal with the oppressive taxes, the oppressive regulations, all the things that make it difficult to survive and thrive in New York State. But in Chautauqua County, we're working hard, and I would like to take this same philosophy to Albany. We're working hard to have more efficient government. We are working hard to promote business. I spent my first 100 days in office. I made a commitment. I committed to visiting 100 businesses in my first 100 days of office because I wanted to ensure that I knew what was going on in business. And we actually got to 107 businesses in my first 100 days of office. It's one of those things that people said, I don't think you can do this, George, but we did it. And the reason was I wanted to know where they stood. And what I found out was, in Chautauqua County, the whole whole political rhetoric of there's no jobs here wasn't correct. The reality is there's lots of jobs available. The challenge that we face is workforce and workforce development. So we've changed our economic development strategy in Chautauqua County to be more focused on being able to train folks, retrain folks, and be focused on workforce development so we can fill the open positions. And if we can solve the workforce issue, it overcomes so much else. It overcomes the taxes and regulations that people face, because the number one concern for people looking to locate or expand their business is workforce. So if the solution, in my opinion, is for us to solve that problem here in this region, and that will help us to grow our businesses and to grow our population. So when it comes to those things, I will always push back against taxes. We've lowered property taxes in Chautauqua County 5 years in a row. Our tax rate in Chautauqua County is lower now than it was in 2006, while still providing the services that people want and need. So there is a solution out there, and we are doing that in Chautauqua County, and I will bring that same philosophy of collaboration and cooperation to my role as a state senator.
Going to take a quick break, then check the forecast. We'll be back shortly with State Senate candidate Republican George Borrello. Stay with us.
Did you know that the IRS is getting more aggressive these days? They're using private agencies to track you down. Don't wait. If you owe more than $10,000, take advantage of the Fresh Start Initiative, a program in place that can help you now. You can save thousands and possibly have your taxes forgiven. There's help for those of you who owe $10,000 or more, but it's important that you take action before these programs change. Call the tax experts at Oxford Tax Partners for a free consultation now at 800-575-1919. That's 800-575-1919.
And checking in now with meteorologist Rob Carolyn, who says, cool start to the week, but it gets better as the week goes on.
It does. It warms up by Wednesday, Brian. We'll be getting temperatures back into the 80s, only to push them back down below normal by the end of the work week. We do get a little piece of the warm weather over the southern United States to come northward. And that'll get us tomorrow and on into Wednesday before we start to trend towards cooler temperatures by Friday. A little cool out there this morning, along with lots of patchy cloudiness stretching all the way from Albany down the thruway into Buffalo. We've got some of it overhead as well. I think the best we're going to be able to do today is partial sunshine. We'll see highs between 65 and 70 later this afternoon. Sun came up at 6:44. It'll set tonight at 7:30. Now, tonight looks to be partly cloudy and cool. Overnight, we're 50. There'll be a few spots that get down into the 40s. For tomorrow, partial sun turning warmer, 75 to 80 tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow night, some showers arrive late. Those will be anywhere from 60 to 65. Occasional sunshine Wednesday. Pretty good chance for showers and storms. Warm Wednesday, 80 to 85. Then it does look cooler for Thursday and Friday, Brian.
Back with Republican State Senate candidate George Borrello, the Chautauqua County executive. George Borrello, Republicans in the state Senate, tough situation these days with single-party rule out of Albany. I think going in there, it's going to be quite the uphill fight.
Well, I faced uphill battles my entire adult career. I started my own business when I was 23. And as the business grew, I was told that I would never be able to compete on the national level, but I did very successfully. When I first became a county legislator, one of the first things I undertook was downsizing the county legislature. I was told, no, we've tried that in the past and you can't do it. Well, we did. In my second year as a county legislature, we downsized the legislature from 25 members to 19 members, and I led that fight. I've done other things that I was told you just can't be done. You're not going to be able to be effective. From downsizing government to having more efficient government, getting folks to consolidate, getting our various municipalities and organizations to work together. Most recently, we have an issue in Chautauqua Lake when it comes to the water quality and weed management. Chautauqua Lake is a big economic driver, and I said enough is enough with all the fighting. We're going to all work together. And I was told you're never going to get all these organizations and groups and municipalities around Chautauqua Lake to work together. Well, we did. We got them to sign a memorandum of agreement, and we had the best year in many years. So I'm used to being told that it's a tough fight, it's an uphill battle, but I have a strong track record of overcoming those things by working together with people. The bottom line is my opponent can tell you the things he'd like to do. I can show you what I've accomplished, and that's the difference between us.
Governor Andrew Cuomo, it's kind of interesting if you follow the governor's political career. Cuomo in New York State politics, and I'm skipping the Attorney General's period, but started out in the governor's mansion pretty much as imaging himself as a fiscal conservative, socially liberal. Then the governor had some far-left competition, and now we have AOC, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, pretty much, I think many would say, defining the modern Democratic Party. With the governor moving to the left, where does that put the state Senate and state Assembly Republicans?
I think it puts the Republicans in a good position. Quite frankly, yes, there's this lurch to the left by the governor and the Democrats there. And the bottom line, this is not about Democrat versus Republican. This is truly about what is right versus what is wrong. And I can tell you, the folks in this area, we know what's right, and we can see that most of what's going on in Albany right now is wrong. And that's the kind of thing we have to highlight. I believe the path here is to hold all upstate New York legislators, both in the Senate and the Assembly, hold them accountable to the people that they represent. That's really what's not happening. I think the upstate Democrats are living in fear of their New York City, the ruling class in New York City, and they need to stand up and be accountable. They need to really speak for the people that they represent and not just go along to get along because they like their nice office spaces and their close parking spots. That's really the theme, in my opinion, is work together with those folks, let them know that we are there to support them, to stand against these egregious violations of basic common sense and the values that we hold here in upstate New York.
3 men in a room. I think now, what do they say? 4 men in a room, George? But they talk about the top legislators having all the control there. That would be for the Assembly, I believe, still Carl Heastie.
Mm-hmm.
And for the state Senate, the Democrats, it would be
Andrea Stewart
Cousins. Of course, you've got New York City Democrat Governor Andrew Cuomo and the Senate Republican Minority Leader John Flanagan. Flanagan was in a situation where he had to kind of compromise being in downstate New York. But I think from what I've read of him recently, he's veering more to the right than he used to be because of the situation where his opponents are going so far left. I think that's bringing Flanagan farther to the right. In a similar way I see with Donald Trump. Trump did not used to be a big conservative. Nobody thought, when you thought of Donald Trump 10, 15 years ago, you did not think of a pro-life, pro-Second Amendment guy. You thought of a Hollywood jet setter.
Yeah. Well, look, again, this is about right versus wrong, in my opinion. And what I see happening is, as the the kind of the core of the Democrat Party in New York City, runs to the left, so that they can out-liberal California and the West Coast. What's happening is it's galvanizing the rest of us. Really, if you look at this, it's just this. It's not the majority of people in New York State. It's absolutely not. You've got the areas on Long Island where we have we have people that are just more common sense folks. You've got the people north of New York City, the rest of upstate New York. We don't agree with this. We don't agree with the idea of aborting a baby as it's coming out of the birth canal. These are the kind of things that we all need to stand together on, and we will have allies on Long Island. We will have allies in those northern suburbs of New York City, and we certainly will have allies throughout upstate New York. We can come together, work together, and certainly push back against this radical agenda, because enough is enough.
Sitting in the studio in the afternoon, listening to what's on the air here on WLEA, we have Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity. They were playing the clips over and over again of the Democrat state lawmakers cheering on the abortion legislation that you were just referring to. It's and listening to that over and over again, you get thinking, what page are some of these people on?
Yeah. It's really, it's kind of we'll call it a feeding frenzy in a lot of ways. Each one of them is trying to out-liberal the other. And what it has turned into, it's turned into them totally losing touch with the people that they represent. And once again, it's about working together, Democrat and Republican, for those of us that are like-minded, we can work together and push back against this really radical New York City-based agenda that goes beyond, Republican or Democrat. We need to push back in a united front, and that is what I have a strong track record of doing that as a county legislator and as a county executive. So this is not just words. I can point to the accomplishments when I've worked together with folks, regardless of party, regardless of philosophy, to do what's in the best interest of the people that we represent.
We'll have him on again before the November elections. State Senate candidate, Republican George Borrello, the Chautauqua County Executive. Thank you so much for coming in today.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for letting me be here.